Welcome to day 2 of Technology 2021 Readiness. We have an excellent presentation for you today from our two presenters, Ryan CHARNOCK and Clay Osborne from Red Level. They're going to be presenting how to use the Power Platform to fight COVID and how you can use it to drive business. So we're really looking forward to their presentation. We thank them for their time. I want to let everybody know technology kicked off yesterday with an excellent presentation from our friend James Stanger from CompTIA. If you have not signed up for any of the following presentations this week, you can find those on nhls.com under resources. You'll find a link for Technology 2021 Readiness. Coming up tomorrow, we have Office 365 Online getting started with Teams. That's going to be presented by one of our local subject matter experts from New Horizons. And on Friday, we have Kailash Savant, who's an enterprise cloud architect with Microsoft, presenting utilizing the cloud and technology during a pandemic. So we've been lucky enough to work with Kailash in the past. He's incredibly knowledgeable, and certainly you would not want to miss his session. So if you need some fundamentals on Teams or interested in how the cloud can assist you in the upcoming year, please make sure to visit our website, sign up, and register for those following 2 sessions. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to Ryan and Clay, and they're going to take us through our presentation. So thanks so much, guys. Go ahead and take that away.
Hey, Brian, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Ryan CHARNOCK from Red Level, and with me, I have my colleague, Clay Osborne. Hey, Clay, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
Hey, today we're going to walk you guys through introducing you to the Microsoft Power Platform and a couple of use cases, and we got some demos lined up for you. So in case if you don't know who I am, let's see if we can advance the slide. I'm one of the technology consultants for Red Level. My background is I was an instructor for New Horizons for like 12 years, specialized in .NET, SQL, and SharePoint collaboration space. Went to the private sector a long time ago and been consulting ever since, and local here to the Michigan area. And Clay, go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yep, Clay Osborne. I'm a senior software developer and team lead over at Red Level. I've been professionally developing for about 23 years. Everything .NET, SharePoint, iOS. Pretty much anything across the board. And then heavy into the Power Suite as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Clay undersells himself. He's one of our senior guys. So anytime I get stuck, I'm like, okay, and let's go give it to folks that do this every day. Okay, so here we go. So let's set the stage for you guys. So what are we dealing with? So if you think back to college, there is a psychology class where they introduce you to this concept called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basically, it says, hey, people need food, shelter, clothing, safe security, and then like a sense of significance and like hobbies. Those are higher level needs. So we always think of it like, what does people need from a technology standpoint and from like a user? Well, we think, well, they need access to core job functions, like through like an intranet. They need access to a company's culture, Yammer or something of that nature. They need opportunity to collaborate, and Teams is a really good tool. And then automation is then what happens then at that point as a hierarchy of needs. So if you're looking, hey, I got my intranet squared away, company, we're good, culture, collaboration, poof, we got this. But look, we just do a lot of repetitive things over and over again, very file-based, very paper-based. There's got to be an easier way. There is. And Microsoft has really given us this thing called the Power Platform, okay? And the Power Platform really makes itself up of 4 components. It's Power BI, PowerApps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Thus, in order to be a member of this family, your first name has to be Power. That is your best dad joke of the day, right there. Okay, so these guys, let me give you kind of the working man's version of what this stuff is. Power BI, we're looking at dashboards, taking data, visualizing it, putting it all around there. Okay. And Clay, how else would you describe Power BI?
There's those really nice virtual visualizations. You got your pie graphs, your line graphs. You can also, of course, do your standard paginated reports. And there's a various array of tools available, which we'll cover. Power BI is, kind of as it says, powerful, and it leads into that whole citizen developer type mindset that the whole Power Suite allows. You can get as complicated as you want, but you can also, simplify.
Is it different than like Excel, like building like a pivot table in Excel with like a slicer?
Like a pivot table, you can do tables. Where Power BI really shines is in its visualizations. So the graphics and the interactability with those graphics, the interactions, anything in Power BI is clickable and typically filters everything else because it's all related.
So you're talking about like drill downs, like I got a pie chart, I click the green one, and then it shows me some slice, some kind of awesomeness. Is that there?
Yep. Right. And both Excel and Power BI have Power Query, available on the back end for, transforming that data. But ultimately Excel is more, it's a spreadsheet, obviously. It's cell driven, all of the little data bits and as much data as you can pack and scroll up and down in, whereas Power BI is more visualization based and graphs and, looking at something and knowing at a glance versus reading into the fine detail of the numbers.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I'm super excited to see your demo and kind of see this in action later on. All right. So the next item we got is PowerApps. And this comes into me kind of in my space a little bit more. And I see this getting used to customize SharePoint list forms. So you have a standard form that comes from SharePoint, and then you want to customize the layout, picture, graphics, add in some logic to the form, make a certain fields required. It's pretty cool. But the other coolest thing about this, PowerApps, is mobile apps. Okay, and so you can use this platform to build a native mobile app that automatically does all the authentication for you, authenticates users to Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and it can be right on their phone. So that's really, really cool and pretty amazing. And so that's pretty fun. So Clay, what have you seen has that been real popular with our clients to see PowerApps been used in the mobile context?
Oh yeah. It gives you that power to utilize the Microsoft Power Automate app to surface all of the customizations that you've made in that space without having to, go out and manually deploy or, get your own individual apps out there like iOS. You have to go through a review process. There's a whole architecture, a whole ecosystem for that. Google plays the same way. This, if you have the Power Platform because you have 365 already, you've got these tools already available to you that you can take advantage of and utilize, the free downloadable, Power Automate app and surface those to any of the users you've shared it with.
Yeah, and speaking of Power Automate is the workflow engine, right? So anytime you're trying to like write code, we've had tools in the past, like I could even say like macros in Office were like a version of workflows, trying to automate some kind of steps. VBA, SharePoint Designer, Nintex. There's been a lot of different workflow tools, and now Microsoft has a cloud-based workflow engine called Power Automate, which then really is some pretty cool stuff, right? And we'll talk more about that later. And I find that we're, even as a development team, how often are we using Power Automate for just simple types of stuff? Pretty often. What do you say?
Oh yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, even just sending notifications, reminders, it's doing some of that basic lifting for us. All right, but the cool thing that has just been released that Microsoft came out this couple of months is this item here called Power Virtual Agents. And hey, welcome to the family, Power Virtual Agents. But this gives us the ability to now create a chat bot where we can now have actions happen and we can program how that works with the user. And so that kind of falls into what this now platform. All right, now if you look at the whole ecosystem, there's some benefits to using this platform. So let me walk you through these real quick, and we'll give you some examples and some live demos. Okay, the first thing for me is this. It allows us to create solutions quickly, okay, and which reduces our development time, reduces the cost and the overhead. So for example, like yesterday, I built a chat bot for a help desk ticketing system in an hour. End to finish, no training, just whoop, walked in. I'm like, okay, start here. Gave me a template. Okay, let's try this out. Try this, and within trial and error, within an hour, I had built published a fully functional chatbot. And that to me kind of really illustrated, whoa, this platform is like, you know, in the summer, it's like a pool that has like the zero entry. It does not take a lot of energy to get wet. Okay. Whereas some pools, you got to jump in that deep end. Right. So this isn't like that at all. It's got a low entry to it and can really reduce your time and cost. All right. Clay, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, because, you know, when you're doing standard development, there's only a deep end typically. And with the Power Automate, the whole Power Suite, really, they've got that nice zero entry, and it can get as deep as you want too. So that's where it's great. Yeah, you know, you can come up with things very quickly with little experience, but it also is powerful enough for a developer to walk in and do something very advanced with it beyond that too.
Very good. That's very good. And I think that's what's so attractive about it for organizations, is it caters to this wide spectrum of knowledge. You know, people that are highly knowledgeable to low knowledge, and they can start creating solutions independently without the aid of IT. All right, awesome. Next thing we'll look at here is it's got this great ability to now, since it's cloud-based, you're now free from the standard infrastructure, your LAN physical infrastructure. So cloud-based means that, hey, you have activities or connections to, I don't know, Microsoft's got like over 442 different connections and different services. So you can now get to Twilio and send text messages, right? So you can now trigger and have content and have data get created or pushed up the box. You can now provision an AWS server, right, programmatically. You see an icon here and something can happen. All right. So have you used any of these kind of like connectors to broaden our solutions from just our data and our local LAN to some outside location?
Yeah, because there's on-premise gateways as well as a part of the suite, where you can have an on-prem SQL database.
Yeah.
And that uses another tool that's part of the Power Suite, is, you know, the data gateways, which sit on your system and basically broadcast the data to the cloud. Since the cloud can't reach into your network, this can make it available when the cloud asks for it.
I remember you mentioning just the other day, like using Twilio for something. What were you using Twilio for?
That was for, we have a number of different custom apps we've done using it. And we've also used texting for our on-call list internally as well. When people are on call and a call comes into, or an email comes into a specific email box, the people who are on call that week get a text immediately from a Power Automate workflow.
That is way cool. Talk about automating some kind of internal process in email, getting notifications out to folks in the middle of the night, because that's how we roll. All right, cool. So really extensible, really kind of breaking outside of our current data structure into other services, and with all these different connectors. And then the last thing I'll mention here about the Power Platform, and we already talked about this, is the knowledge investment, kind of the zero entry pool, that these tools can be used by a traditional end user. They have this phrase called a citizen developer. It means somebody who knows the syntax of an if statement, but their main job isn't a developer, but they have a programmatic kind of maybe background or a previous role. You know, maybe they programmed in Fortran at some time. Okay, so, but then also, like Clay's mentioned, for the pro developer, you know, so these are tools that's like, wow, it does have maybe some limitations to what it can do, but it can be incredibly powerful to get some solutions. I don't know, what do you think about the use of the range of this stuff? Do you think it feels like it's applicable to all these different users?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, say you can create a very simple and quick Power Automate. You can create a complicated one even as an end user or citizen developer, as you nest all of these different actions together. But you can get as complicated as you want with, like, you know, raw calls to APIs and parsing, you know, the output, and you know, consuming that and reaching out to different systems. You know, it's all there. And you know, as a professional developer, a lot of the stuff, you know, I could write from the ground up, but why reinvent the wheel, you know, when Automate has that already there, you know, and available.
That's a great point. That's a real good point. So we're going to go tell kind of show you kind of an illustration of something we did within the Power Platform. So we have, we built an application in PowerApps and using Power Automate. It's a mobile application called ClearPass, okay? And it's basically so that you can manage the number of workers you have in a facility. And so that you can, hey, well, I want to have a capacity due to COVID to be this amount, and I want people to be able to reserve a location. So if you think about like how do we do that? That was a real big problem. And the way the story goes is our CEO, David King, was talking with some friends. He's like, hey, how do I get other business owners, how do I get office employees to come back to the office? And they're having this conversation. Well, we could have a spreadsheet, we could have like a email sign up, you know, and they're having like all these things. Well, how do we do it? Like, cause they're not going to be in the office. How do we, sometimes they kind of came with this idea, hey, it should be mobile. So David kicked it over to our director of application development, Karina, she's our boss. She said, hey, what do you think? Do you think we do this? She goes, yeah, we could do that. Got a hold of our developer, our senior developer, Ali. Say, hey, Ali, what do you think? And he says, oh, sounds good to me. We can do that. Sure. But he had a couple of questions. Do you want this mobile? Because we're thinking, what platform we want to do this in? We weren't sure, you know, and is it mobile? It's got to be visible into Teams. Where's the data going to be stored? They said SharePoint, and the solution we want to give away. We want to give it away to organizations, absolutely free. So if you have Microsoft 365 and you have an E3 license, this solution you can download from redlevel.com. Absolutely free. You can get it installed. If you want like a support agreement with us to help you install it and do stuff, you can pay for it. We can help you do whatever, customize it, all that stuff. But we really want to give back to the community during this time. So the cool thing is, here's what it looks like. Well, actually, here's the big kicker is, so Ali says, okay, let's do that. Ask a bunch of questions. How long do you think it took them to build this thing? Start the end. You know, I asked this question to a lot of people. They say, well, I don't know, weeks, months. You know, but it asked him, I go, hey, how long did it take? He goes, 40 hours from start to end. He built the entire solution in 40 hours and like literally just working from concept to the design, the UI, data thing. That is ridiculous. Most mobile applications that are native for like Android or iPhone would take 6 months. I don't know, Clay, what you think of the same kind of way, that this is like just an outlier of just time to create?
Yeah, I mean, there's all of this pre-canned stuff that's already available for you to use. You don't have to go back and write it from the ground up, from scratch, you know. Like I was saying before, you know, why reinvent the wheel? You know, we have this tool available. It's in our tenant. We can take advantage of it and do things quickly. That, you know, it's that rapid development. Big time.
So let me show you guys a couple of screenshots, what it looks like. Okay, so when you log in, it tells you, hey, here, this is the office, max capacity, number available. Yeah, we got a lot of places in that Grand Rapids office. All right, then you register for what you'd like, location you want to go to. I want to reserve a seat for me on this particular date. You get notifications back. You get push notifications on your phone. So pretty all user-friendly, mobile-looking type of experience. Okay. And then check this out, Clay. What these are? What this
Power BI. So this is a Power BI report of the results of, you know, ClearPass, basically, you know, where we're just kind of highlighting, you know, the last alert, maybe someone who had failed the self-declaration form. They reported they have a fever, so the app says, nope, don't come in. And, you know, this kind of highlights that, and it shows you the number of how many people, you know, basically had failed that question. So, you know, 9 people on the first question had answered no, or they answered yes to having a fever or, you know, any symptoms. And then there's kind of the breakdown, you know, of people checking in over time, and the breakdown of who's checking in guests, and, you know, what locations they're checking into. And, you know, there's basically a high level, just snapshot, take a look at it and kind of know what's going on report.
That's way cool. And so we thought we'd kind of share this example because this solution uses PowerApps for the UI component. It uses Power Automate to send notifications and write data. And then lastly, it uses Power BI as a solution for, hey, let's get some analytics, let's get some visualization on this stuff. So we thought we'd kind of get a chance to share it with you guys. All right, so let's if you're looking for like, well, the big question that most people have about the Power Platform is like, well, Ryan, what kind of licensing do you have around this? You know, well, it's Microsoft and I'm no licensing guru. So I did a quick search. Okay. And this is how it works out. Licensing for the enterprise falls into the F class. That's frontline workers. And then you have the E class, which is enterprise. Okay. So for, if you have an F class 3, you get PowerApps, PowerAutomate. If you have E3, PowerApps, PowerAutomate. And if E5, you get the PowerApps, PowerAutomates, you have the Power BI, and then you also get the Power Virtual Agents. All right. And licensing can be done for like your account, but then you could also purchase, if you don't have these enterprise types of agreements, you can also just buy the plan, and it could be per user or per run. So you buy a certain number of runs of like a workflow type of scenario. And so pretty cool. Clay, any thoughts on licensing?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. You say if you have that lower tiered, you know, license, an F3, you can get a certain number of Power BI licenses, you know, Power BI Pro licenses, and assign them to individuals. The
Gotcha.
E5 is just that top tier, comes with it.
Gotcha. Yeah. That E5 with the Power Virtual Agents is so, I'm just really geeked out about that. It's pretty exciting. So, all right, awesome. So I tell you what, let me do a little demo, and I'm going to demo PowerApps and PowerAutomate, and I'll show you a little bit of Power Virtual Agents. And the point of my demo is just to show you guys how easy is it to use, right? And what kind of barriers do you have to get into to customize and applicate the form with PowerApps, and how hard is it to create a workflow? So that's kind of the question I want to kind of have you guys asking yourself as I do the demo. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Was this easy? Was this, what kind of knowledge was required? And you kind of have seen kind of a complex example with our ClearPass application. What's a simple example look like? All right, so let's go do some demoing. All right, so what I've done for a demo, this is just a standard kind of SharePoint intranet, and I have a help desk. Okay, so a place for IT to come. They don't want to purchase like ServiceNow or a Premier help desk ticketing system. Can we build a very basic one in a SharePoint scenario? The answer is, yeah, sure, why not? Okay, so you can see here, SharePoint has this ability of creating a data table, and you can add more fields here over on the right, add a column, and that's, we just kind of pre-did that and populated this thing with data. And Clay's going to show us how we can visualize some of this data with Power BI, will be his demo. And if I click on new, okay, you'll see this is the final example. You'll see that this is an example of a customized form. So you can change the arrangement and layout, all the stuff. You can say, hey, please reset my password. Okay, blah, blah, blah. You fill in whatever you need. Category, I need access. This is critical. I can't do anything. You hit save. Okay, and it fills in the entry. Okay, but that is really kind of cool. And this is where PowerApps works, is you can have this form. This is a customized form. Okay, the standard one looks like this. So I have a copy of the exact same list, but no work has been done. So if I click on new here, you are going to see, hey, this is the standard thing. It is vertical stormtrooper in essence of just one field after the other. You can't rearrange, change the size, layout, or apply some kind of business values. Okay, so that's the scenario to work with. So Ryan, how do I go about customizing this form? Okay, the cool thing is you don't have to install any piece of software. Based on your rights, you have this ability. If you go to PowerApps, I have the ability to customize this form. So right from the data itself, I can make changes. So let's give that a click. It's going to open up in a new browser tab, take me to a browser-based development environment called the PowerApps Studio. And this is where I'm able to now change the layout, decide what fields are being displayed or shown, add logic for what's required, not required, and give me additional capabilities I didn't have before. So that's, for me, that's pretty cool. Clay, what do you think about that? Just the ability of just having the software built in.
It's so convenient, and it sure beats the old way of doing it with InfoPath.
I know. I got to write 32-bit or 64-bit version of the InfoPath or SharePoint Designer. Blow my mind. Blow my mind. All right, so this is this is the PowerApps Development Studio. Okay, and you can see here, there's a lot going on. So when we said, hey, a professional developer could use this, you're like, yeah, this definitely looks like a pro developer. But we've taught people in like, I don't know, in a 2-hour session, and they've gotten really functional within this space. So first thing I'll do is, how about we add some fields? I could read, add a field. How about we add in, how about, yeah, issue description? Adds that in for me, great. How about we add in issue category? Looks good, just dropping fields on there. How about we go with, let's just do a whole bunch here. How about dates reported? Oh, what else I need? Priority. And then let's go in with status. And then maybe some read-only fields created by, modified by. Let's throw one more here, assigned to. Okay, so pretty easy. First thing you're thinking about doing is I got to get fields onto the form. But you can see here, assigned to is way at the bottom. I want to move that up. So if I just drag this guy here in my field explorer, no big deal. I can move it around. Nice. Okay. The other cool thing you can do with this Field Explorer is not only change what fields are there, what the sequence is, you can also just change if a field is read-only or editable. So like this field here, status, I probably don't want users changing the status when they fill this out. Okay. Because I don't want them to go, well, it's blocked, it's in progress, it's completed. You know, I just want them to just take the default status. So one of the cool things I love that I can do is just change it from an edit section to a view section, and it removes their ability to even make changes to it. That right there, that simplest thing I'm able to do, and I could publish this form and have it just be, I'm already kind of now making good use of this tools. All right, let me show you a couple of things you guys can do with this. So like, for example, the main thing I think a lot of people want to do is change the layout. So for example, like issue description, they want to make it a big box so they can fill out like a description. So I'm going to click on this guy and I can just drag and drop, you know, kind of use traditional PowerPoint kind of sizing handles and move things around. And notice this is like they call this a data card, and you can get really technical. And then this is the control it sits in. And then you notice this is only it's kind of funny. It's kind of through the middle. But then, and if I look over here on the right, it now gives me this, what they call a properties pane. Now I remember this from Visual Studio 2003. Yay. Okay. Where you have an object, a form, you have the properties laid on the right. So this is pretty common to the pro developer kind of mindset. I pick something, here's everything there is about it. And one of the features we have here is mode. Let's go from single line to multi-line. Hey, pretty cool. And now we're making some changes. All right. And if you're wondering, hey, how does this actually work? There's a little preview button. If I click the preview, oh, I can see, hey, I can put in another line. I can put multi-line and put text in here. I can try it out. Hey, this is the way it'll look. If I press a date, this is what it'll look like. It's like, oh, okay, I like this. You know, you can try it, kind of WYSIWYG, like this is what you're going to get. So that really cool. Okay. The other thing we'll do here is, what if I want to make these and move them around and change some of the sizing on them? Okay, so, all right, so if I click on these guys and I start changing some of the size around, it's not really letting me. That's because it's got this feature on it. Where'd you go? Snap to columns. And right here it says snap to columns. It's currently on and set to 1 column. So everything's set to be in a 1 vertical column. But if I turn that off, now I can take these guys, I can make this smaller, make this smaller. I can click and drag, move these things around, and I can start arranging this data so it fits without, and for me, you know what I hate? Scroll bars. Hate scroll bars. Anybody else with me? Hate scroll bars? Great, so let's just watch me play here. This is the funnest time of the day. Let's watch Ryan play. No, let's see if we can get this up. There we go. So now I've got rid of my scroll bar. Let's say my form is ready to go. Clay, does that look good? No, but it's good enough for now.
Good enough.
So how do we now push this back into reality? So great. So it's got this really great option. You just say save, then it'll ask me to publish. And then if I return, when I fire up, hey, use the form, instead of having the out of the box one, I'm going to get this custom form. All right. So I published it. Even there's a little link here back to SharePoint. It's going to take me back to where I started. It's like Dorothy clicking her heels together saying there's no place like home. Okay. And for good measure, I'm just going to refresh the page. And now the magic is moment, instead of having, oh, look at that. It cached it. Let's try it again. Refresh. Here it be. It's coming. There's my form. All right, that's pretty cool. All right, so the question you're asking yourself on that demo is like, hey, who in my organization could do this, right? Is it end users? Do I have citizen developers? Do I have pro developers? Okay, and what would it take for them to get to using this? And was this pretty easy? So, my opinion, I think that's pretty simple demo, and kind of showing you guys this kind of this range of use of the tool. So that's PowerApps and how you guys can customize the form. And the same tool can be used, notice this, if I go create an app, it's also a doorway to create mobile apps with the same data. Don't have a demo for that. We'll leave it for another day. All right, but then the last thing I'll show you guys here is Power Automate. Power Automate is where you guys can now automate different activities as they come in. Okay, so let's say that when a new help desk ticket comes in, you want to notify the support staff in Teams. Okay, or via email. If it's hardware, it goes to this channel. If it's a software ticket, it goes to this channel. And then whoever's available, they go to the ticket, they assign themselves to it, and they solve it. Okay, because it's kind of like this queuing kind of idea, right? So can that happen? The answer is sure. Okay, and the question I have is like, well, how hard is that? Is it really complicated? The answer is, I don't think so. So let's go see if we can prove it out. So if we had PowerApps was the doorway to get started with the form interface, Automate is the doorway to get started doing the automation. So Power Automate, I'll say, hey, let's create a flow for this. And then notice here, it gives us some great templates for some of these things, okay? And I've used these all the time. Okay, like send an approval, send a notification in Teams. These are fantastic. But so let me just start from scratch so you can kind of just see kind of what is the experience if I don't know stuff, right? So this gives me a list of flows that I've created before. And to create a new one, I can read. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to say, hey, I want this to be automated cloud workflows from blank. I can't give it a name. We'll call it ticket notification. There we go. And then it tells me what is going to be the trigger to start this off. Well, it's when a new response from forms or when a new item is created in SharePoint. And notice here, it gives me all different things that kick off this action. It doesn't have to be SharePoint data, and that's what we used to have with a lot of on-premise environments. It could be data from a lot of different places. So I'm going to say, hey, when a new item is created in SharePoint, it's really what it is. And then it just basically is now going to be very inquisitive. Well, okay, Brian, that's great. Well, can you tell me what address, what site in SharePoint is that from? Okay, so I'll say it's from my landing site. He says, oh, great. Well, I found these lists there. Which list is it? Well, oh, it's the help desk number 2. It's the empty one. He says, oh, it's fantastic. Great. So when they create a new item in there, what do you want to happen next? All right. The first thing I want to do is how about we update the status? Okay. And so I've used this a bunch. Okay. And notice here, I went right to the search, but this shows me a list of all of the actions that can be done. So, and the list goes on. This is what it's powerful. It can do. From work with Basecamp, update things in Twitter, update rows in Excel, and the list goes It's actually more than our human brain can kind of comprehend right now, is the number of actions. And I found it a little overwhelming. Clay, have you kind of like ever taken time to like read through these?
Oh, haven't even scratched the surface on how many are in there.
It's crazy, isn't it? I you know, like here, get forecast for today. I'm like, someday, whenever I need that, I'll probably forget that it's in here, but it's in there. All right, so I want to just update my item, and it says, well, here's your different options, and I want to update a SharePoint item. And notice here, once again, it's asking me some kind of like almost like an interview type of scenario. Okay, where do you want to update? Because it doesn't have to be this list. It could be some other SharePoint site, which is pretty powerful to kind of trigger different operations. So that's my site. Here's my list. And he says, okay, which item? And now this shows us kind of the power of this. It says, well, if we've done this action, we know some things. We know what is the ID of the help desk ticket that was just put in there. Is this the one you want to work on? The answer is yes. So I'll say, hey, that's the ID I want it to be. Okay. What do you want the title? I don't want to update the title at all, but I do want the status changed from new to in progress. Cool. So now I'm going to automate that goes from new to in progress to indicate, hey, we're starting to work on this thing. We know what's up and it's going on. So that's pretty awesome. So new created, let's update it. Next thing is let's do a little condition. Okay. And now it says, okay, we know some things. And we want, if the category is equal to hardware, all right, we're going to notify, put the team's notification in one channel, and then if not, we'll put it in a different channel. And so now if we go to actions here, let's go with, it'll be teams. I need a teams. I don't remember the exact name of it. So if I just go with team, okay, look, I can pick the category of teams. So here's all the things I can do in teams. And we're looking for post a message. Looks good to me. And he said, okay, great. Within your tenant, and knows things. I love how it's so like thinking ahead. It's like my wife. She just knows like, you should probably call the doctor now. Yeah, I probably should call the doctor. I'm bleeding. My arm doesn't work. She's okay, smart lady. She helps me out. So it says, okay, what's the team ID? Let's go with Contoso ID. It says, well, what channel? And if it's hardware, hey, the service strategy said they take it. And we'll do a basic message. Hey, new hardware ticket has been submitted. Please update the ticket with assigned to. And cool, how about, let's do, if we can do let's be great if we had like a link to it, right? So if I do link, yeah, let's do a link. Pretty awesome. And we can also give it like a little like a subject header of like help desk ticket, and then how about we fill in like its ID number? Man, that's pretty awesome. But it's giving me this kind of this mixture of hard-coded text and dynamic text. And so let's see if we can get this thing going again. Let's go with Teams, post a message, but this time we want to have it go to the same team, but to a different channel. We're going to have it go to the support channel. So all our tickets go to support, but hardware is going to go to these guys. Okay, and guess what? I'm just going to steal this stuff. Why? Because I'm like that. All right, awesome. And I'm going to save this guy. And ticket notification. All right, and we got to test this guy up. Let's go see if this works, right? I'm ready. You're ready. I can feel it. Everyone's ready. So if I go to new, that is the wrong help desk. No, this is the right one. Help desk 2. I'm on an old tab. There's my form. Test to trigger flow. I need a new mouse. It's hardware, sounds like. Pick hardware. Could be a triggering item. Let's pick a date. Great, let's save this guy. Look, the entry gets plugged in there. Okay, and so now we're looking to see, hey, as I'm developing, I want to have evidence that this thing worked. So check this out. So I'm going to go to back to flows. Here's my ticket notification flow. All right. And when it runs, you'll see a history of it begin to run right here. Okay. And so I was working on this demo for a couple of days. And so this was what it looks like. So you can say, oh, it failed. Well, I mean, it had something wrong with it. The test succeeded or it succeeded. And so now historically, you can see how the code actually ran. That is incredibly, really, really cool. All right. The other cool thing about it, notice it's not running right away. Oh, but again, I had to like delay. Usually it takes a little bit. And if you click on this guy, it's actually going to give you an execution path, right? And it says, oh, this green check, this guy worked. And it says, oh, based on your condition, it did this guy here. So let's see here. Where's I couldn't see Teams. If I go to Teams and if I go to support strategy, help desk ticket 2, a new hardware ticket's been submitted. There's my link. Thank you very much. That's pretty cool, right? And so that also is a great illustration of how it worked and how Power Automate, you could build a workflow that as things come, as a new help desk ticket was created, it automatically routed it for triage, even inside Teams. So pretty awesome. I don't know, Clay, what's your thoughts on Power Automate? Have you been using this a whole bunch?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. It's a great tool.
That's way awesome. That's way awesome. And so before I turn over to Clay, I just wanted to throw out to you guys, the other topic that's within the Power platform is Power Virtual Agents. And that's what this guy is over here. This is the platform, okay? And you guys can create your own bot platform, which is incredibly fun. And so I've been building a bot for help desk tickets where you now have this chat back and forth with a bot. And you notice here, this is the design canvas. I'll run through a very simple example here. You say, these are my trigger phrases. You decide, I want to ask a question, give people choices. You can gather data. And then down here, notice you can trigger a flow so it automates different tasks. So pretty cool. And I got a chance to build this guy and I published it. You guys want to see the live publish? Here it is. I published it inside Teams, but it can also be used with in a public website. So I can say, hi. and the Power Virtual Agent now answers back. Okay, and I'll say, I need a password resets. Great, it says great. And I'm kind of working through some of the bugs, the logic, your conversation language, you got to begin to think through that. So, well, this is going to be a hardware scenario, or it could be software. I picked the wrong one. Please add details. I was like, well, please send me a new mouse. I'm changing it up here. Old one is broken. Okay, awesome. It's now going to ask me a little question. It says, what's your name? Hey, it's Ryan C. I always have mouse issues. Would you like me to create a ticket for you? Yeah, sure, let's do that. Creates a ticket for me. And the cool thing is it's now going out to that SharePoint list, creates the record for me, and gives me a URL right to it. So if I click on this, it's going to take me to the help desk ticketing system. And you notice that the title of it was bot ticket for Ryan C. Please send me a new mouse. Old one is broken. And so pretty fun. This is just another tool in our toolbox to begin to service our employees, our clients, and automating different tasks now through a chat interface. I don't know, Clay, what's your thoughts around the chat thing? You think this is going to go big?
Yeah, that's really neat. I haven't had time to experiment with that too much.
Yeah, it's brand new. So we've just been kind of playing around with this and really excited to kind of now start spinning this into the recipes for our clients. So, all right, this is going to wrap up my demo on just PowerApps, Power Automate, and then Power the Virtual Agents. And so at this point, I'm going to kind of, let's go back over to you, Clay. So kind of get a chance to allow you focus on your stuff.
All right. So yeah, Power BI is just another, piece in the Power Suite. And we've got, you're gonna go to the next slide. Yep, here we go. So we got, basically data. We always need data, and we want to get the most out of it. We want to visualize it and kind of really see what's going on with that data at a high level with Power BI. This isn't the tool to have like, finely line detailed, Excel style reports. You want visualizations. There is a tool that Power BI does have, the Power BI report builder, which you can do paginated detail type reports with. Yep. And that's kind of the replacement for the old SSRS, the SQL Services Reporting Services. That's that replacement, whereas this is mostly focused on visualizations. So
I love that old report builder. I use that thing like all the time.
Yep. Yeah. So the big important piece with Power BI, the visualizations, are easy to create, throw on the page and slap some data behind. The trick is getting the data and transforming it into a usable case. So this is where there's kind of a big separation between heavy need for a data analyst versus a report writer. So a lot of report writers may understand the data and be able to transform the data. Some, may need it in more of a flattened state to be able to get the most out of it. With Power BI, you can do it all in Power BI with Power Query and all of that, or you can separate those tasks as well. So let's move on to the next slide. So these are the key components to Power BI. There's a lot of different components to it. It has its own little suite. So Power BI Desktop is your primary tool for creating the visualization-based reports.
Now that sounds like a download.
Yep, and that's a free download from Microsoft. Okay. You have it available in the Microsoft Store, as well as there's a direct link as well on Microsoft.com to get the Power BI Desktop application. They update it constantly. I can't remember the last time I've opened it up and it hasn't thrown a little status down there saying there's a new version, go get it. They update it constantly. Every month, at a minimum, every month there's an updated version with new capabilities. So that's your primary tool for creating those visualization reports. And that's the Power Query is in there as well. So Power BI Report Builder, that's for your paginated reports, more of your text. It's going to spill over, whereas Power BI Desktop, it's geared towards single page. You want to see a dashboard of all of your data or reports. You can create, basically it's report centric. And the Power BI service, the next on that list, this is the cloud.
Clay, if I hear you correctly, the report builder is for like tabular, like
yes, tabular text,
okay.
Grouped, paged, multi-page reports you would print out, type deal. Whereas Power BI Desktop, the visualizations are highly interactive reports. The graphs are all interactive. You can interact with them. You click on a piece of the pie in a pie chart, and it will highlight that and filter down to that element for all of the other visualizations that are also on the page.
People commonly use it inappropriately, like they use Power BI Desktop to actually build like a tabular report.
Some people do attempt to. You can create a table of data in Power BI Desktop. It's just not it's not its strong suit. You can have a table that you can scroll up and down through, but when you're thinking of a report that you want to print out, you can't print that because it's a scroll box. You're only going to get the first page just looking at. With a report builder, then you're getting your paginated reports and you have different sections and repeatable headers and footers and all of that. Power BI Desktop is all about the one view, and it's more like an application at that point. Your report is more like an application. You're clicking and drilling into sections.
Cool.
And then Power BI Service is the cloud service that Microsoft offers where you can publish your reports to share them with others. And on the service, this is where you can create the dashboards where you have multiple reports and you can surface little bits and pieces of any of the reports in your workspace up into the dashboard. So think of it as favoriting or pinning a portion of a report, because a report can have multiple visualizations. Each visualization is pinnable to a dashboard.
What, like facets on a diamond, like the same data in different presentations?
Yep.
Cool.
So you can have multiple reports showing different data, and you can have a dashboard that just bubbles up key points from each report.
Nice, love it.
So yep, and the Power BI mobile apps, of course, so you can see your reports on your devices. Power BI gateway. Now that's the data gateway I mentioned before, where it is running on an on-prem server. For example, you have a SQL server behind a firewall. You know, Power BI service can't get to that, you know, through your firewall without having a door. So
this is native, right? This is born in the cloud, and it's spilled out from the firewall to get into your on-premise data.
Yep. So this Power Gateway connects to the Power BI service. So whenever the service needs to refresh the data on its report, it connects to the gateway, and the gateway provides the data for that data set behind that report.
That's interesting. Is the
backdoor to the data.
Or is the data usually refreshed on like a schedule?
Yes, and Power BI service lets you set schedules, you know, so that you can have that data refreshed at certain times of the day.
Nice.
Power BI embedded. Now that's like APIs and a whole bunch of stuff for getting Power BI reports out of the service and kind of into your own space, custom applications. The Power BI report server is if you have regulation, for example, that doesn't allow you to share your data in the cloud and you're worried about that kind of thing, you can have your own Power BI report server locally inside your network.
And then the kids are going to get for Christmas. How'd you know?
Yep. That's a good gift.
So
the Power BI Visuals Marketplace. Now that's third-party and Microsoft provided additional visualizations that you can customize Power BI with. So if you don't see a type of graph you need, somebody may have created it and provided it for you. All right, so let's see the demo. Basically, I will share my screen and kind of walk you through through some Power BI scenarios here. So you remember this list we were just looking at on Ryan's screen. So this is, you know, that help desk application. We want to visualize this data because you can't, it's tough to see what's going on just looking at the raw data like this. So in this case, you know, we like to visualize maybe the tickets by priority. So we have a simple simple pie graph here, and you can see my screen, right? I just want to make sure you're talking and no one can see what I'm looking at. So this basic data element, you know, is coming from that help desk SharePoint list app. So we have in SharePoint, there's all of this data. It's a SharePoint list. Familiar with SharePoint lists? We can connect to that list through Power BI desktop. So there's a lot other than get data here. There's tons of different connectors that we can go to. You can use Excel spreadsheets that you have locally. You can, you know, hook to other Power BI data sets that have been already written for you. SQL servers, you know, a lot. There's a lot of, you know, possibilities here. There's actually this little interface, if it'll open, for searching for many more. So you can see there's a lot of different connectors in here. And, you know, for SharePoint, you know, I had simply searched for SharePoint, and I can look at folders, online lists. And in this case, I brought in a list, and there is a kind of a data view. This is just that simple look of the data coming from Ryan's list there. And you can, of course, maintain relationships between multiple tables. If you want to bring multiple lists in, hook them up with a relationship, you can. Now, this is that data transformation piece where you're going to bring this in, and you can take and you can convert and, you know, reorder. You can change the type of field it is, filter, and that's all done through the Power Query interface. So that's a separate interface here that lets you create custom columns. It lets you add additional tables in. You can do merge queries, extend queries, and it remembers all of those steps that you've done to this data to manipulate it. Important note with SharePoint, you know, a lot of times you bring in SharePoint data, the number fields, the date fields, they all come in as strings, and, you know, you got to transform that data, make sure it's understandable and filterable. So obviously a date field, you're going to want to convert and make sure that it's truly a date field.
It behaves like it. You can do,
yep. So you can change the type of any of these. You know, I could go in and change what type of date field it is. You can have it retain its time zone information. just
Cool.
a date, just the time, and it, you know, manipulates and does that. And once it's a date field, then you can actually do different kinds of filters, ranges, and, you know, different things to it than you could do to a string. The same with numbers. Once you've got something that is a number, now you can do averages, you can do, you know, that kind of stuff.
Do the math, right? You can do
Yep.
math.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So
Transformation. I love
Yep.
it.
So this is that powerful backend Power Query interface. Excel has this too. This is where, you know, the heavy data analyst comes in. If you have multiple disparate, you know, systems that have to be joined together, you know, in some sort of relationship, and, you know, you got to bring all of these different data sources together into one cohesive set of tables that can be easily reported. But this can be offloaded as well. That data set that I created shows up here as table and fields. And we can create this Power BI data set and actually publish just that to the Power BI service. And the next report writer comes along, they could, if they choose, to hook up to just a Power BI data set. And then at that point, they're kind of at the mercy of what the data analyst had provided them.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have relationships or Power Query anymore. They are delegated to just reporting against that data set as it exists. So you can do that.
So what I hear you saying is, like, if I'm the visual, if I create the pretty things, I don't have to be the expert in the data side.
Exactly. You can delegate or separate.
Somebody else can do that, right?
Yep. Those roles can be separated.
That's cool.
And you can even use, like, SQL Server has a powerful tool called Analysis Services, and that has Power Query as well and hooks into this whole, you know, you can hook to an Analysis Services database and do the same thing, get that data set and the data from there, you know, from the warehouse or, you know, wherever it's been provided. So in the case of this visualization here, I just wanted to simply see tickets by priority. So we've got a breakdown of, here's all the normal tickets in the system, here's the critical ones, kind of a lot for a help desk system. We got the low priorities and we got the high. And basically, you know, to do that, all I had to do was I created a graph. I picked the pie chart, and then I went and I picked priority, and I put that kind of in. I wanted that to show in the legend, the details, and I wanted the values to be the count of priority. So you get a couple of different things depending on the data available. You could do distinct or the actual count. In this case, we want the actual count, because distinct values, you know, there'd only be one of each then, because that'd be, you know, a grouping.
Oh, that's right. Good point.
Yep. So then, you know, that graph really just comes to life at that point. And you can change, you know, various things, you know, whether you want the legend to be on or off. You can apply additional filters to it here. You can decide, you know, whether you want it to be interactable or not. Pretty much everything is right here in the interface, easy to use.
Nice.
Then the next data point, I decided let's do tickets in the queue by technician. So I've now taken the technicians that are out there and grouped by them and the number of tickets they have on their plate that are still open. So in this case, I did a filter where the assigned to person is not blank, and I want a count of all of the tickets that are on their plate. Again, it's just a simple count. You know, I took that assigned to title and dragged that over.
This is like you're translating, right? You're translating data into something, the answer to a question someone might have.
Yep.
Well, who's busy? Alan's like, well, I'm busy. We'll prove it.
Yep. So then another graph, very similar, same line style, but this time I did the average ticket age. In the SharePoint list, you had a nice number available to me already for days old. Now, in this case, if you didn't have that available, a data analyst would have to figure that out based on created and, you know, today's date, for example, and doing some math there to figure out how old this is. In fact, that's what this is likely a calculated column in SharePoint doing that, but you could do that on the Power BI end as well. Another breakdown, tickets by category. So we have our hardware, software, you know, access the different categories there, and of course some general numbers of how many open tickets there are, you know. So that again, I'm taking and I'm putting a filter of only those that have the new or in progress statuses. Anything that's completed, blocked, duplicated, won't fix, these are like closed statuses. So I, exclude those. But you can easily, as you see, if I click on any of these, you'll see the numbers, update dynamically on the spot. So it's really easy to apply these filters. And these filters here, of course, when you deploy the report to the Power BI service, you can choose to let the users manipulate these or not.
All right,
so,
now Clay, last question for you is how long does it take you to build this stuff? Like, is this like a week long? Is this like, what's the effort you think,
This set of reports here, I probably threw together in an hour.
Whoa. Well, okay, Superman. Okay, so
yep, it's not too difficult. Again, some obviously data analysis, keeping that in mind. Having that knowledge helps. Knowing, okay, how do I visualize my data? Report writers are typically really good at that. Data an analyst is going to be more when you have multiple tables and relationships between them, trying to get those together. And getting that data into something that's easily visualizable. Visualize. I can't even say the word. Something you can visualize.
I can see. Well, that's really cool. So we're getting close. We're just about out of time, but I don't know. I think the big question I always think on these is like, who could do this? I think people could do this. Didn't seem real hard. What's your thoughts on just kind of the amount of knowledge needed to build these reports?
It's click and drag interface almost across the board for all of these tools. So, it's intuitive. You can hunt around and figure out how to do it quite easily. And, there are a lot of resources out there if you, need to search and research. Simple Google searches turn up a lot of this, knowledge.
Right.
And of course, obviously, as you get towards the more advanced stages of, I'm going to hit an API and start parsing that XML response, then it's, you're going to have some developer background that'll help you understand, how to do that kind of thing. But these reports, are fairly simple and straightforward. You can put them all together and have kind of a dashboard. And that's, again, just a simple, in this case, I have the separate ones just copy and pasted here. But with the Power BI service, which we actually haven't seen yet, you can do the same thing with a dashboard, so you can create an actual dashboard and then pin different pieces of these reports. So if I'm looking at my report on the web where I had taken, I can say, I want this and I want to pin that to this help desk dashboard, and it basically just went over that dashboard. I can go over the dashboard and now here it is, and I can click and go to the report. I can keep it on the dashboard. I can kind of resize it and put a whole bunch of different pieces out here. And each one of them.
This is the web interface to consume it.
Yep. And again, you can do this in desktop or here. This is just if you want to share it with others. That's where your Power BI Pro licensing comes in, to be able to share it with others. If you want to play with the environment, the desktop download is free. You can create reports and export them and, send PDFs of them to people. The interactable, pieces, like if I click on this pie, see how it just filtered everything. So this is where it's interactive and it's affecting all of the numbers based on my selections.
It's like a fidget. It's like those old fidget spinners those kids have. Reports just all day long.
Yeah, the way Microsoft kind of looks at it is, here are all the tools, and most of this is free. You can use it, and you can use Power BI. It's when you come to the point when you want to start sharing these reports with others, and having it put up into the, you can put it into the Power BI Pro service or Power BI service under what's called My Workspace, which would be your own. But if you want to create additional workspaces and invite others, that's when you all need to be, licensed. And then you can subscribe to the reports, set schedules so they automatically update and all of that.
Awesome. Well, Clay, we're just about out of time. So let me just share the one last slide, kind of bring us to the end here. Is I want to go to that screen. Let's do share.
Stop sharing.
There we go. Is like what can people do next? Okay, and here's how I see it. New Horizons, they're a fantastic organization. They have, I did a search, they have tons of classes on the Power Platform, and specifically around Power BI, PowerApps, Power Automate. And they have, their classes are, they have live instructor ones, they have ones that are on demand, they have hands-on labs, so pick your poison. It's fantastic, it's a great route. If you're looking for something like, we offer something called a quick start as a consulting firm. Red Level, we do some instruction, we'll teach you, but we also know that like you probably don't want to pay us to build all these, because we basically have sold you on the idea that like you can do this. Like we would rather teach you to fish. So, but we know that like sometimes taking a class, you don't get all the support you need. So we offer these packages where we'll teach you some stuff, but then we're going to help you design one of your solutions. And then we're going to stick around to help answer questions and be kind of like we're there to help you in the long run. So the way I think about it is like we build together, we'll build an example, we'll build one together, and then you build the next ones. And a lot of times we get called to build the hard solutions, but we've really had a lot of clients have a lot of success, just like, oh, thanks, we've gotten along, and we now have this kind of relationship back and forth. So those are kind of we see kind of like your next steps from here. And at this point, I'd love to kind of open it up for questions and answers, and see if the audience has got something else.